Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel, and welcome to the third chess study of the day. And I'm happy to announce that we are upping the production quality because we've got a new microphone for my headset here. Alright, so let's get started. Today's study is composed by Alexei Troitzky in 1895. And if you want to solve this study for yourself, I'd recommend setting a timer for somewhere between 5 and 7 minutes to get all the details worked out here. So let's get started. So when we take a look at this position, at a first glance, it might look like black has some good play here because of their extra pawn, and they have connected passed pawns, which is a nice resource in an endgame. But white has some tactics here, as you might have guessed, and that's the subject of this study. So white's first move, I believe, is rather forced, because black is threatening to take this pawn on g6, and if they succeed in doing that, there's not a whole lot to talk about. So the first move should be g7. That's not quite surprising, and black has two ways of stopping the g8 promotes to a queen. One of them is bishop f7, and another is king f7. And now if king f7, this is really quite easy, because we just promote to a queen, and after king takes queen, we play knight f6, forking the king and rook, and after king f7, knight d5. This is going to be an easy win. We have the extra rook, and these pawns will be quickly captured, for example, with king c5 and rook e1 next. So king f7 isn't really going to challenge us too much. The more interesting of the moves is bishop f7. So now, if you were thinking to maybe try and play rook a8 and promote this pawn to a queen, unfortunately that isn't quite going to work for a couple of reasons. The main one is that even if you promote to a queen here, for example, if black for some reason allows you to, these endgames are still pretty drawn. Well, I suppose there was actually knight c5 here, but like we're just talking in general. Like if you're allowed to promote to a queen, this is just a random example. Obviously, there's knight c5, but if you're allowed to promote to a queen, this is still going to be a drawn position, even if black rather gives up these pawns, because rook and knight versus rook is still a drawn endgame. That's the point I'm trying to make here. So, in other words, rook a8 isn't good on principle, and also black has the move d3 to try and promote to a queen themselves. And after, for example, g8 queen takes d2, black would actually be winning this rook endgame because the king is cut off from the pawn. Okay, so rook a8, as we can tell, isn't quite going to work. So white's correct move here is actually knight g5. And now, black's in check, of course, and when they move king f6, white takes this bishop. So, first of all, we're going to look at taking with king takes knight, and then we'll come back to what happens if king takes pawn. But let's start with king takes knight. Now here white plays a really nice move, rook a7 check, defending their pawn, but after king g8 they undefend their pawn, they play rook a8 check. And the justification is that after king takes pawn, king c6, this is a really nice trap of the rook. This rook on d5 has no squares, because the pawns on d4 and e5 limit the rook's access to the king side squares, and this rook on a8 limits black's access to the queen side squares. So in other words, the rook is trapped, white will capture it with a winning game. So that's the answer. And just to quickly go back and talk about if king takes pawn, really this is the same motif here. White plays king c6, and this knight on f7 stops the rook from going to d8. So after king takes knight and king takes rook, white wins this game. So that's the answer to this study. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you tune into the next chess study of the day. Thank you.